Oh man, we're doing another side table episode.
Welcome to the side table.
Yes, this is episode 21. Joshua,
21.
I even looked up.
I was gonna say I was gonna be impressed that you knew that, but that makes more sense that you had looked it up.
I looked it up for the date of the last episode.
Okay, the date.
The date of the last episode was June 7th, 2019.
So here we are, nearly 9 months later.
9 months.
June, yeah,
Or really? Is that 9 months?
right around there, maybe
Okay.
even more.
Wow, that's almost a year.
Pretty close. Yeah,
Uh,
we're
How nuts is that? You know what's kind of crazy now is think about the last time we recorded this podcast, the last time we were in your house in your back room. Would you even imagine a year from now we would be in a pandemic where we can't leave our house?
yeah. It wasn't exactly something that ever even entered into my mind. You watch movies or read books about pandemics, and most of them involve zombies or what have you, and so you just kind of you push that thought to the side as and
Right?
dismiss it as completely unbelievable.
Right?
And yet here we find ourselves in a very similar situation.
I know, and I think, and we'll talk about the whole COVID thing later. But the thing I find the most, like, what's incredible about this, and not in a good way, but in the fact that we've had all these other scares, with swine flu,
SARS.
SARS, and then there was one more.
Yeah, there's been a few just within the last decade or two here that had the potential to be pretty big outbreaks.
Right? And I always thought when the news was covering those or what have you, they always made it to seem kind of, it just felt similar to what was going on right now, but like now we're taking this more seriously. I don't know if it's just because of maybe I just haven't read that much into it, or I
I
don't know, it
think
just
I
no,
think
you
maybe
go.
some of that perception comes from the way live news tends to handle things, in that they're after ratings, so they're dramatic about it, whether or not it
That is
requires a dramatic response.
so true. I have not watched any news for
I
how
yeah
many years? Yeah,
Years. I read most of my news mostly because of that,
that
and
makes
being able to read a couple different sources and kind of draw your own conclusion from there.
that makes a lot more sense. Wow. Well, anyway, Joshua, let's
So what
start
are we going to
light.
talk about today?
We're gonna talk about first. We're just gonna do some lighthearted conversation. What? Just because this is a big passion of ours and what's mostly on the channel. What games have we been playing since this all started?
What games have we been playing? And then obviously we'll talk about a little bit more about the COVID stuff a little bit later.
Yes, we just wanted to start light and then kind of get to the main discussion of our thoughts and opinions on
What our
the
experiences are.
of COVID-19. So I'll start with the big one, the game that I've been playing a lot of. Well, there's been two.
Well, I know which one you're talking about, though.
Yeah. So the first big one is Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's
Which came out, what now, 3 weeks ago?
yeah, it came out, oh god, March 19th or the week of that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And Sarah and I both got it, and we've both played it every day. She's played, I think she said she already has like 80 hours in the game,
Oh, wow.
and which makes sense because she obviously plays it more than I do. But
hmm
whenever I play it, I play it daily, and I play till my Switch tells me I have 15% battery left, which
But
means I've played like 2 hours and some change every day of
it's a
it.
good thing you don't have the Switch Lite or one of the newer Switches.
Why is the battery that much better?
It's pretty significant. I think the newer revision of the Switch will see almost double the battery life depending on the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I
Wow.
will play like I was playing Final Fantasy for an hour or two, and I'm just still sitting at 80% battery.
Holy moly. How is that on the Switch?
So far, it's been fun. I it wasn't one that I planned on talking about just because I haven't played enough of it.
Uh-huh.
I'm only probably about 3 or 4 hours in, and with any Final Fantasy game, that's just enough to get through the opening cutscene,
Oh, Jesus. Oh,
and
wow.
then a little bit of gameplay from there.
Oh, okay. So,
That's obviously a slight dramatization because usually the opening cutscenes are closer to an hour.
yeah.
But
Um, oh my God. So that made me think of another game I played, but I want to, that'll be coming up. It's coming up in the list. But the other big one is one I've been playing for like 2 months now. Um, and I got Joshua back into it. I'm taking full credit for it.
oh, you can
It
take it.
is Bloodborne.
Yeah. So
It's
we bought
incredible.
Bloodborne. I think we decided a little over a year ago.
Yeah, I believe so. After we got our PlayStations.
Yeah, slightly over a year ago because my 1 year PlayStation Online membership had expired,
Oh, yeah, I guess that is true.
and we'd played through a chunk of the game.
Yep,
Uh,
I got to spoiler alert for Bloodborne is I got to I was right at the nightmare, not the frontier, but the nightmare of Mensis or whatever. You know what I'm
yeah.
talking?
Yep.
I stopped right there, and then I decided to pick it up again. The whole reason I wanted to pick it up was there's a lot of games recently. I think you might be able to relate to this that I'll play for a good chunk but never finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I stopped playing Bloodborne, but a couple like 2 months ago I was doing uh, the Law 5
Right, finishing 5 games or other
before
books or what have you.
I bought something else, and Bloodborne was on that list because it's one of those games put off, and I beat the whole game by myself, and I wanted to start over because I felt like if I picked up from like the last part of the game and beat it that way, that was just cheap. It was just cheap.
You would lose out on that whole experience of just playing it through.
Exactly. And so I decided to start over, and it was extremely fun, and it's an awesome game. It's made it into my number 3 spot. Favorite games of all time. I only have top games. I can't think of a 5, like 4 or
You can't
5.
think of a 4 or 5?
No, I thought about that today. While I was working out, I'm like, okay, so we're gonna be talking about favorite games. Bloodborne is number 3. What's number 4 or 5? Because then I could give a list to the people, to the
Mm-hmm.
listeners. And I'm like, I can't think of any. I
Well,
can't think of
you.
anything.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is Pokemon Gold,
Okay.
and then number 1's Mass Effect 2.
Right. Do, does Oblivion not make it anywhere in your top 5?
I forgot about Oblivion. Oblivion is definitely okay. So list has been revised.
Okay.
All right, top 4 right now.
Top 4. All right.
Actually, you know what? I think I might do a top 5. I think I can do a top 5 right now.
All
All
right.
right.
Let's do it.
No, number 5, Dark Souls 3. And
An
the
excellent pick.
the reason behind Dark Souls 3 is because it was the first Souls game I beat, and then fell in love with the whole Soulsborne thing, and then got Joshua into it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my favorite games, you know what? Oh, God. I think I can do top 6. So I'm just thinking of games now. All right. 6 is Gears 2.
Oh, I forgot about Gears 2.
5 is Dark Souls 3.
Hmm.
4 is Bloodborne. 3 is Oblivion. 2 is Pokemon Gold. Mass Effect 2 is number 1. I
That's
think.
quite the list.
Well, if you notice it, a lot of the games are games I played with you, and then just like all my memories tied to gaming is mostly with you.
Right.
So,
So it's
so
not to say that these games are objectively
yeah,
amazing. It just happens to be the ones that in a lot of cases that we got into together
Oh
and
yeah.
dumped so much time into and just kind of bonded over.
And you brought that up when we were playing Bloodborne last with I think we've dubbed it Oblivion, like the Oblivion night. It's like its whole thing where we stayed up just soup. Like, that's all we did is we stayed up really late. We had no commitments, nothing going on the next day,
Yep.
and
Would
we
have been, yeah, like high school.
just stayed
And
up super late playing games.
for like the whole weekend. And here we are. We're kind of stuck at home. And we had a couple nights back to back, just stayed up and played Bloodborne until 1 in the morning.
Oh yeah, and
And that
then
was just the feeling that it gave.
and it's incredible. Gaming's just incredible that way. But anyway, Joshua, can you think of a top 5 or 6 list real quick?
Top 5 in no particular order. Oblivion and Gears definitely would fall into that list somewhere as well. And I don't know if Pokemon Silver or if Pokemon Red would be my Pokemon game of choice to throw in that list.
I would say Pokemon Red for you.
Probably, since it is the one that, not the one that I played first, but I think the one that I played the most of, and then
I
replayed the most.
I just remember whenever the most that you talk about when it comes to Pokemon is Pokemon Red. Because I remember when we lived
Mm-hmm.
together, the amount of random knowledge you knew about that game, I think, would imply that.
It was maybe slightly more important.
Yeah,
But that
'cause,
one's unique in like the amount of knowledge that's there, just in certain
like glitches and stuff.
bugs and
Yeah,
glitches that existed in that game.
yeah.
It makes it a little bit more interesting. So those would be in there. I don't know if Bloodborne is quite in my top 5. It's definitely up there. I think Dark Souls would maybe be above it. Dark Souls 3 would maybe be above it at the moment.
Well, we got to change that.
I know. I've always had an affinity for tycoon city builder games, and we'll
Oh
talk more
yeah,
about that with Jurassic Park later. But SimCity 2000 was a really old one that a friend of mine growing up in the state of Washington had played, and I got to play a little bit of there. And was an early entry into the gaming memory. And another one that kind of falls under that early memory would be, I don't know if it was exactly Age of Empires or if it was a similar game. It's been so long now. Because this would have been in either 99 or 2000. We had another family friend who they had this Age of Empires style game on their computer. That we could go over. We went over there sometimes, and I'd watch them play it, and that was a really fun one. I just remember them making like little catapults and like trebuchets and building these wonders. I just thought that was a super fun game.
Was it Age of Empire, or are you thinking like Total War? Or?
No, I think it was in the Age of Empires. I would have to look it up again, just because I knew it was something that had to have been out before 2001,
Oh, okay.
and I distinctly remember building a pyramid style wonder of the world that they had in there. I'd have to look it up again to be sure which game it was, but it was that style of game.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Like realizing that you built a pyramid.
Yeah, yeah, especially 20 years ago on a computer, like that was just mind-blowing cool stuff.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
it's pretty
Godlike.
commonplace now.
Yes.
Exactly. There were no God rays in 2000.
Oh, damn. Was that 5?
That was right around 5. I think those are at least the most impactful games upon myself.
I do remember the first game I completed fully was Jack and Daxter, the first one. Yeah, you had to collect their version of the golden stars in Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I rented that game and I completed it, and I was like, "Wow, I am epic. I am legendary." And then I never played any of the other Jack and Dexter games. When you were talking about 90s, I just thought of that. That's what made me think of that. I was like, "Whoa." But I think that was like early 2000s.
Yeah, and early 2000s is mostly when I got into it as well. But some of that stuff was definitely 99 or actually I think the first game I ever played had to have been I think we've played it on the channel before. It's Hover.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
It
Hover.
came out as a promotional game with Windows 95 on, and my dad had purchased a 95 computer sometime shortly after.
That's
Would have,
cool.
yeah. And so I remember playing that probably as early as like 97 or 98.
That's how I ended up playing Spooky Castle, which we never got
Mm-hmm.
to work on the channel, but that
We never
game
did,
was
no.
super fun. I just thought of another game. Oh, I might have to rework my top five because I forgot about Golden Sun.
Oh, you were big into Golden Sun.
Yeah, I forgot about Golden Sun 2 specifically. I think it's Golden Sun: The Lost Age is what I was. That was my first JRPG outside of Pokemon, if you want to count that as a JRPG.
It's not really in the same sense that the
Yeah,
classic JRPG is.
and I just whenever I think of Final Fantasy, I'm just like, well, even though Golden Sun was after that, Golden Sun is better, you know. Blah, 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 blah. But no, Golden. I forgot about Golden Sun. I'm just trudging up all sorts of memories now.
Well, let's move out of the past and into the present of some of the other games we're playing.
Okay.
So in Bloodborne, your favorite part has to
My,
be the Chalice dungeons, right?
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Personally, we've discussed it. The lore in Bloodborne is incredible, and the Chalice dungeon lore behind it is incredible.
It
The
is. The
idea
implications of what the Chalice dungeons are to the story.
is incredible, and the idea of the Chalice dungeons, it's incredible. In reality, the Chalice dungeons are slog, man. They are, for me, they are just a full-on slog, and I hate how there's a trophy locked behind them
Locked behind it.
that
They
I
are.
want to get. Uh, I mean, I like them. I like doing them. I'm impressed you did them all by yourself because I definitely couldn't because they're boring to me.
They are. And I for whatever reason when it comes to games and MMOs especially, I've always had like the mindset of being able to go in and just farm what I want out of it. Usually I'll be doing
Uh,
something else at the same time, so it's a little bit more of that.
gotcha. See, I like that. I like the grind. Uh, like when I would have to go back and grind for blood vials or blood echoes
Mm-hmm.
for to level up. Did not mind doing that because in the vanilla game, and I think now it's because the Chalice dungeons, the environments and the enemies are very copy and paste.
They are, especially in the early Chalice dungeons.
Yeah,
They're
and
all very much exactly the same.
yep, and it to me that just gets really boring and uh, I mean I the reason why I was able to, for example, like grind in WoW like you're supposed to do in the chalice dungeons is the environments are different, and I was again usually doing it with you, so
Right, that's the
I
other thing is being able to play it with another person and you're less at that point grinding out a game and more just kind of hanging out and chatting with somebody else.
yeah, and but the cool thing though about the chalice dungeons in Bloodborne is that they are completely optional. Like you do not have to do them to enjoy the game. They are just if you want to get better weapons,
The best
better
blood gems.
yeah, for if you want to get into PvP or what have you.
Hmm. And then there's a couple armor sets in there too, but I don't think they're quite worth getting except for the look.
Oh, that's for sure. Oh yeah, I did unlock one from beating I think the Bloodstarved Beast in the Chalice dungeon.
Oh, nice.
That one, I love fighting the Bloodstarved Beast. That's one of my favorite fights because it just feels,
It's a challenge,
yeah, and
and it's, as you like to say, a dynamic fight, but it's not impossible like a certain
no.
boss.
And the one thing that why Bloodborne is so cool is it kind of like echoes back to my youth of anime. It feels, you just
Like
feel
you're that
epic
character.
and badass. Yeah. And when you fight like the Bloodstarved Beast, you both are these two incredibly powerful forces that are just like so fast and powerful, and it's epic. And speaking of fast and powerful, I'm going to move us along, unless you have something else to say about the Chalice Dungeons, because you enjoy them more than I do.
I had nothing else to say. I just wanted to bring them up so I could hear you rant about them.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's fair. The probably my second favorite thing about Bloodborne is the Orphan of Kos, or Kos,
Kos, or some say Cosm.
or Chasm. Oh yeah, that is true. Uh, this have you beat this guy yet?
Not on my current playthrough.
So again, spoiler alert for Bloodborne. Uh, give you a hot second to leave or pause the podcast or skip ahead. Okay, second's over. Uh, Orphan of Kos, Chasm, whatever,
It's Kos.
Kos is the final boss in the Old Hunters DLC, which is the only DLC for Bloodborne. And he is probably, arguably, the hardest boss in any game I've ever fought. And I have a whole like quest arc of me fighting him. Was so when I first beat Bloodborne, this little backstory real quick. I wanted to beat Bloodborne before I played my next game in my 5 games I had to play, and that was Mass Effect 3. I wanted to beat I had to beat this game in order to play Mass Effect 3. And I started Bloodborne after I beat Mass Effect 2, and for those who don't know, the Mass Effect trilogy, the stories are connected, so they carry over. It's a very personal story. It's great. It's awesome. And once you play one, you want to play the next, yada yada. And so I couldn't play Mass Effect 3 till I beat Bloodborne. But I also wanted to beat Bloodborne, I think, by a certain day. And it was Friday of that day that I was like, I have to beat Bloodborne tonight, or else I'm not gonna play Mass Effect 3 until like next week. So I wanted to start Mass Effect 3 on a Friday, so then I had 2 nights to stay up, really late and
Just
play,
get it done.
yeah, and play Mass Effect 3 and enjoy. Because for me, staying up late by yourself, having the whole apartment to yourself, and playing a game is it's one of the coolest experiences ever. Like, you're just in your own world. Your whole environment is under your control because you're the only one in it at the moment, and you're just playing a game. And this son of a bitch kept me up till 4 a.m. on Saturday to beat it. And when I beat him, the orphan, I screamed so loudly that Sarah came out and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Nothing. Just go back to bed. I'm having a moment." And then I proceeded to finish the rest of the game that night. But this guy is just, if you don't care about playing Bloodborne or whatever, just look up a quick video of him, and he is insane. He has no set move pattern. He has his specific moves you have to memorize, but it's not in a pattern that all the other bosses
plan on. He's very, very aggressive and very unexpected in his
he's very random.
His decision. Yeah, very random in what he chooses to do. It feels like, anyway.
And I was playing with the Blades of Mercy, which is a weapons that you have to be right up next to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get good. I had to get good at dodging. I had to get good at everything.
At
And
timing those dodges.
oh yeah, and it made me a better player, like a way better player for sure. Uh, and I thank him for that. But I just I I remember. So at one point I was fighting the orphan, and I think I kind of broke on the inside, and I just started singing "Drops of Jupiter" or "Tears of Jupiter" by Train. I just started singing it to myself for like the next 20 minutes. And it didn't help, but I just was like
No.
breaking, and I was just singing all these like early 2000, late 90s songs that I would hear in the car. That I was breaking. It took me places, people. That boss takes you places. It's insane. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on the Orphan of Kaz.
He's he's a lot less challenging when you have somebody else to help you with.
Oh, he
The
is. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so Patrick has gotten into Bloodborne, so he's like, "Hey, you should come along. We'll do a run through together. We'll play some of the game there." And so we eventually get to Orphan of Kaz there through the DLC. And I summon Patrick in, and the whole time leading up to this, Patrick's telling me, "There's this one part, I just want to see you get there, and I want to see you struggle, so you can feel what I felt." And so as we're playing along, we get to certain parts. I'm like, "Oh, is this gonna be it?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Was that it?" No. No. So we finally get to him, and we kind of get into the area. And at this point, I know that this is what he's waiting for me to suffer through.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember if it was the first time we fought him.
It was the first time.
It was the very first time we fought him. I summoned Patrick in, and we just go to town on this guy and one-shot him without dying.
It was incredible. And because I remember when you summoned me, right, and I was just like, all right, if we somehow beat this on the first try, I'm going to be incredibly impressed with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we walked through the fog wall. Well, you didn't. But for those of you who don't know, when you get summoned into a Soulsborne game and you go to a boss room and you're like the summon, you walk through a fog wall because it's not your game. You have to wait for the host
to initialize the boss fight.
So he's initiated the boss fight. I walk through the fog wall, and I see the giant beach and the decaying old one on the foot of the beach, and I just am slowly walking. I see you in the distance. I see the orphan slowly approaching you, and I remember we watched the cutscene, and I just my heart dropped to my butt, and and then I'm like walking on this beach now, and I'm just like, I'm not ready for this. I don't want to do this right now. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm telling Joshua the whole time, like, God, I'm not. I just got the sense of dread, like that. It's like I just hit my car, like it caused like oh no, and then we beat him on the first try, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you serious? But it was nice, though, that we beat him on the first try because I did not want to stress about it.
Oh, I know. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This might have been a different boss, but as we were fighting him and we got him down low, close to health, did you not die?
No, I didn't die.
Okay. That's another one I'm thinking of then.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it was...
No, that's right. You did survive because you were on the beach with me after the fact.
Yeah, I think it was Lawrence.
Lawrence, yeah.
I helped you get him down to, like, super short amount, and then he did like a really like BS move and I died, and I was like, well, at least I got him. At least I helped him win,
Right.
As long as you won, I'm fine. If a win doesn't come out of it, I'll feel like shit. But yeah.
But no, yeah, Orphan of Kaz, the my heart rate was high when we completed that battle.
Was it pretty? Was it like I gotta set down the controller? I think you told me that. Maybe.
I did tell you that.
No, you get jacked playing that game. You get jacked. If you beat a boss first try, you get jacked. Like I can't describe the feeling. And the reason I mention it is because I'm playing on the channel. I'm playing a new game plus solo run through Bloodborne, and I think I've beaten every boss except 2 the first try.
Damn.
And the feeling of Jack, like, I just beat that and I recorded it. People will know that I'm good now at Bloodborne. Just like, wow. No, no, it's an incredible feeling. It's like you just ran like 3 miles on and you beat your time or
And you
something.
just and you feel like you could run 3 more.
Yeah, it's an incredible feeling. Uh, and I think this is a good segue into Dark Souls 3, our next thing. So
Our gateway drug into Bloodborne.
Oh yeah. So the reason I wanted to talk about this briefly is because a year ago, similar to our Bloodborne experience, I got Abe to start Dark Souls 3 because he apparently had the game for a very long time and tried to get past it, couldn't. And I was just like, okay, dude, let me just play it with you. We'll get through like the first area. Once you get through the first area and you beat the first like official boss, not like the starting boss, but like the first initial boss. Well, no, it's really the first starting boss. You just
once
are
you
like,
beat the starting boss, you kind of get the ball rolling and
yeah.
you feel like you can do it.
And I'm like, let me just help you get through this area. Well, he had to get through Udith Gundyr to summon people anyway.
Oh, yep.
So he gets through the first boss. We're playing it together, and he's just like, yeah, I think I'm enjoying this game or whatever. And then we get to the undead settlement, and he just like hit a wall by himself. Like it wasn't when I was playing with him anymore, and he didn't pick it up or whatever until this whole COVID thing happened. And we were talking. He's like, dude, I think I might start streaming Dark Souls again, just so I can start beating games that I have. And he did, and he told me when we were playing together that he's like, I'm glad you got me to play this because it's hands down one of my favorite games of all time now. And I was like, yeah. Oh, bleep that out. I try not to say the F word on my channel anymore.
I gotcha. It's good to be a little bit more approachable in that manner.
But the funny thing about the Dark Souls thing was, and I told you this already, so he beat the cursed rotted greatwood tree. He's at the Abyss Watcher, so he got through the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
And it took him, I'll say it from how he said it. So I'm playing, with him while he's doing his own thing, and we're just like party chatting, talking. I get to where he's at in 4 hours, and he's like, wait, are you already where I'm at? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you know what really upsets me? And I was like, I know what's coming. He's like, it took me 30 hours to get here, and you did it in 4. And I'm like, well, you know.
It's that experience of playing through it a few times and dying over and over and over again.
Yep.
So you know exactly where everything is.
Yep. And I had to keep telling him that. I'm like, dude, I know where you're coming from. I know how it feels. It's awful. But I wanted to get him to, I wanted to help him beat Dark Souls 3 because he won't play Bloodborne unless he beats Dark Souls 3. And I'm like, dude, you gotta play Bloodborne. It's Joshua, when you play Bloodborne and then you go back to Dark Souls 3, it's so hard. It's like, and I'm not saying like Dark Souls 3 is hard. I'm saying that your mindset of dodging the combat is just it's just better in Bloodborne. And I played Dark Souls 3 how I play Bloodborne, which is hyperly, offensive and no shields. I started as like the thief class, so like the second hardest class you can start as.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not it's extremely fun, but it's just not as good.
Having not played the combat in Dark Souls 3 in a while, I do remember it being a much more slow, methodical combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
Where Bloodborne is not. If you take that approach, you're going to get absolutely destroyed by every boss. Every enemy is just going to come for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And it was such a hard mindset to switch, and the healing buttons are different.
They are, so that muscle memory.
Yeah, the triangle. So like, how L1 is to switch your trick weapon in Bloodborne?
Right.
It's triangle in Dark Souls, and it's not a trick weapon in Dark Souls. It's switching to your weapon art or whatever.
That's right. It's weapon art.
Yeah, and so I'll hit L1 to switch to my weapon art, but nothing will happen, or my character will do a move.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I hit the wrong button. Yeah, but no, talk about some Jurassic Park, and then I'll talk about Death Stranding.
Well, I haven't gotten too far into it, but ever since this game came out, Patrick and I have been eyeing it as it's a zoo tycoon-ish game, but with the added benefit of you are raising and researching dinosaurs, and who doesn't want to do that?
I know that is too cool. It's too cool. It's my childhood.
And this game's been out, I think, for almost 2 years now.
Yeah, that's how long we've been like, should we buy it?
Should we buy it?
It's on sale. Should we buy it? Well, I'll buy it if you buy it. Well,
Exactly.
I don't want to buy it.
And since we're not codependent at all, we're not going to buy it until the other person buys it.
Uh-huh.
And there's been a few times it's gone on sale, and Patrick and I will message each other and say, hey, look, this is on sale. And be like, ooh, maybe we should get it. And then obviously we never end up getting it. And so, was this just last night?
I think it was 2 nights ago.
2 nights ago. I'm in Steam just kind of browsing around, and I see the base game is on sale for $11. I'm like, well, I've got all this time. Maybe this is now when I buy it and play it. So obviously I text Patrick just to make sure he's going to buy it too. I'm like, look at what's on sale. He's like, yeah, I saw that. Maybe we should buy it now. And so I did end up eventually breaking down and buying it. I don't think Patrick has yet.
Oh no, I'm going to after this episode. I have a list of games that are super cheap that I have been eyeing for a while that I need to purchase. But no, how is it? How is Jurassic Park? What's it? Jurassic Park, is it Evolution or?
Yeah, I think so.
It's
so
on the Is it on just PC?
No, I know for sure it's on PS4 as well.
Okay.
Because I've talked to a coworker who plays it. No, maybe no Xbox. I think it's on everything.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I talked to a coworker who had played it some, and I had obviously expressed some interest in it. So we talked about it a little bit.
And did they say it was good?
Oh yeah. Good feedback there. So I had started in campaign mode, obviously, because I have no context for this game and how to play it.
Mm-hmm. There's a campaign?
Yeah. So you get dropped into this very small park that exists. It has one enclosure for dinosaurs, and you've got a couple of different buildings that do like research and dig site excavation.
Okay.
And then you get three sort of advisors for your park. One focuses on the science research aspect. Another focuses on entertainment to obviously bring in more guests so you can make money.
Okay.
And then the third one is your focus on security, so that when everything does hit the fan, you can obviously be prepared for that.
Uh-huh.
And each one will start out giving you kind of like mini contracts of go dig up a fossil for this dinosaur, or build this to this helicopter unit to go tranquilize dinosaurs that have escaped or what have you. And then they'll each have like their own main mission that they want you to research a dinosaur's genome up to a certain percent and, incubate a dinosaur or sell this dinosaur. And so it feels a little bit overwhelming at first just because you're trying to manage all of this stuff.
Okay.
But I'd say after about an hour or two, I was kind of in a rhythm and aware of where everything was and what I was doing.
Okay.
But this is
okay.
just on one island. Your park gets to cover, as far as I can tell, gets to cover 5 islands in total.
Oh, wow.
So you can build out an entire park on each of these islands with all of their own separate infrastructure.
Holy moly. Holy moly.
So yeah, it seems to be a pretty packed game.
Wow. I wonder, do you know how many dinosaurs are in the game?
I don't know for sure. But with each dinosaur that you research, you can modify their genome, obviously. So you can give them stat boosts for like their attack or
What?
their survivability, or
Oh my gosh, why would you do that? Like, can you get them? Do you have them fight each other?
I don't know. I know I did hit some certain contract requirements that were like sell a Triceratops with over X amount of attack, and you could usually only
Oh,
get there by genome editing.
okay. That's really interesting. I all I remember of that game is watching a T-Rex get out and eat a park goer, and it was very funny to watch.
Oh, one of the things you can do is you control like some of the units for your park rangers, so you can like jump in their little like Jurassic Park truck and like drive into the habitat and take pictures,
Oh, you can
or
actually drive it?
you can dart them. Yeah, you get to drive it if you want, or you can just manually assign them to do tasks and they'll go do it themselves.
That's too cool.
And then you get to research upgrades for literally every building you can build.
Oh, wow. That sounds so fun.
What I've played of it so far has been enjoyable.
Oh, wow. See, I like when RTSs are like that.
We just need to hop on a party chat or a Discord and just play it for a couple hours.
Oh my God, we should totally do that. That would be so fun. That'd be really fun. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
I'm just full of them.
Oh, it's true. It's true. That's why I call you the idea man. They're
You've
like,
never called me the idea man.
oh, shut up. uh, to kind of speed up because we're already at 40 minutes. This is incredible.
I know.
Death Stranding.
How's that been?
Let me tell you about this game. One, it's completely appropriate for the political
The current
climate.
situation.
I didn't realize how appropriate it was until I threw the disc in. But you mentioned intro when we were talking about Final Fantasy, and the intro to this game, Joshua, and whoever is listening, it's one of the most intense experiences I've had in my life. It's so the gameplay really doesn't start until after the prologue, which is about 2 some hours long.
Oh God.
And the prologue is all cutscene, basically. It's all either cutscene or interactive cutscene, as in you can move the camera around and like interact with things while the cutscene's going on.
Okay.
And again, this is my first Kojima game. He is the man who made Metal Gear Solid series. So I've never experienced his
Kind of style of game.
yeah. And oh man, this game is nuts. You start. I don't even remember how it starts. Oh, it starts with all these giant wide shots of these just green mountains, just like you're in the middle of like West Virginia or whatever, and it's just these mountains covered in grass. They're all these rocky mountains, and you're just driving a motorcycle, and you're like, God, this game is gorgeous. There's moments when it tricks your eyes with help from the lighting, where you're just like, did someone just take like a camera and actually like film this? This is like really real. And I don't even know how to describe like the story of the game. Basically what happened is, probably because I don't even know what's going on yet, like they haven't really like broken down into what's happening story wise. The world has gone to shit, and you play basically a glorified UPS man.
That's what I've heard. You kind of play a glorified delivery man.
Yep. And you're the only form of communication and way to get goods from one point to the other. So you're a very vital part of the society at this moment.
So what you're saying is everybody's stuck in their homes, and the only way to get anything is to get it delivered.
Yep, and that's why I was like, wow, this is how can this be so accurate? And you're in the middle of a delivery, and you're driving this really cool bike, and your bike you don't have your bike anymore for reasons. And spoiler alert, by the way, I won't give out a lot of spoilers. I'll try to be as vague as possible. And you end up finding this lady ends up showing up while you're in the cave because there's this rain going on that's called Timefall. And Timefall was caused by the Death Stranding, which is this big effect that happened that basically caused the world to go to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And what Timefall is, it's basically rain. I thought it was basically rain until there's a shot of, and what's also weird is all the characters in that are mocapped and they were screened in, so they look like the actual actors.
Actual actors.
So Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead is your main character, and which is always weird to see. And he like reaches and the rain touches his hand, and his hand like kind of like decays and gets older. What Timefall does is whatever it makes contact with speeds up the process.
Rapidly ages it.
Yeah, so he like if you get hit by it, you constantly age, or like anything you're carrying to the location.
So what you're saying is, if I have some fruit that isn't quite ripe, I can just kind of quick pop it into the rain, and it'll be nice and ripe.
Kinda.
Cool.
Like, so another thing that constantly happens is while you're walking is the grass is constantly sprouting flowers and then decaying and then sprouting flowers again. Like it's constantly.
It's like speeding up time for
its
cycle.
And it's like a really cool like visual thing to see. But while this is going on, you have to now walk on foot to where you were supposed to go, and then it just like plays this like really melancholy like music, so you just feel like stranded and alone. Like the way it just evokes all these feelings is incredible. And then you get to the place you're supposed to do your drop off, and then you get a emergency alert that you have to make a emergency delivery, and you find out the emergency delivery is a body. And this is where it gets real. So, Norman Reedus' character, Sam, is like, dead body. He's like freaking out. Like, I don't want to deliver this dead body. Why not just burn it right here? And I'm like, why do we have to burn bodies? Like, what's going on? Apparently, because of the Death Stranding now, if you burn bodies or what have you, now your physiology is composed of this stuff that like pollutes and destroys the air. And I think what happens is whatever is, comes off of your body now and goes into the atmosphere causes timefall. This is a theory.
Okay.
Right now, I haven't beaten the game. And Sam's like freaking out. He's like, okay, when did this guy die? And I'm like, why does that matter? Why does it matter how long he's like been, dead as well? So I'm like I hit the mic. So I'm like freaking out. And the guy that Sam's with is just like, it's been, like a day or whatever. And then like, Sam's like, oh, it's been a day. And I'm like, why? What does that mean?
What is that?
What does that mean? What's going on? And he goes, then Sam mentions, I forget what it's a term or whatever, but he's like, yeah, this thing's about to, do whatever it does. And then the guy's like, yeah, but that's why we got to hurry and get all the way to the incinerator, because they put incinerators outside of their big settlements, so the whatever goes into the air doesn't go into the population's supply of air.
Okay.
And Sam goes, no, that's in like BT territory. And I'm like, what are BTs? Why are we abbreviating everything? And then he brings up the BTs, and the BTs are, and you get kind of introduced to them when you meet this girl earlier in the prologue. There's this creature that has been following you, and they leave invisible handprints when they walk. Well, not invisible, like that's all they leave are these handprints.
Right,
so you see these
you can see of them.
So you see these handprints appear, and it's like really unsettling. And you're trying, then that gets brought up, and I'm like, oh my god. And then we're getting towards the incinerator, and this incredible cutscene. And Sam's like, this guy's about to pop. He's about to, the dead guy's about to do whatever. And then we start getting attacked by the BTs, and you can't see the BTs. They're invisible unless you are hooked up to this thing called a BB, which is like this infant baby that's in this jar that was born from a stillborn mother, because then they can communicate with the dead, better. It's a whole thing. Anyway, then the car gets attacked by all these BTs, and then the body ends up just going through its thing or whatever, and then these just like 6 or 5 like beans Sam sees, and I don't even know how to describe what I saw. And then you see like this giant thing that ends up just like punching a crater into the city and totally obliterating it, because you have to incinerate the body before it does its narcosis. That's what it's called. Goes into narcosis, because the narcosis attracts the BTs and causes them to ascend upon it. And then once they do that, then this whole like just giant ball of just shit goes down. And Sam is a repatriate, I think is what it's called, and if he dies, he can come back. And so he dies during the prologue, and spoiler alert, I'm sorry, Joshua. And
right.
and
I wasn't gonna play it.
And you come back, and he's just all like, what,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like incredibly intense, because after that you're making these deliveries, and you basically, your goal now is you have to rescue your sister, who's on the other side of the country. So you're like near Washington DC, she's in California, and you have to walk that distance.
Oh.
So you have to prep, you have to like get, do I want this many ladders, do I want this much rope to scale down things, do I want that? So you have to like plan for it's basically like Skyrim permadeath, but like the next level, like meant to be, like that's how the
meant
game
to be
was.
A real survival challenge.
Yeah. And the other thing that was super cool about it was it kind of has a Dark Souls Bloodborne multiplayer aspect, where you can't team up with players, but you can see their notes and likes in that. Mm-hmm. And what you can also do is you can, any like packages, because you can only carry so much weight, if you find a storage bin or someone's storage outpost that they've created in their own game, you can put your package in there, and then other players from other games can pick up your package and finish delivering it for you. And any like bridges you've made or like ladders you've left in the environment get transferred to
another player.
So when they're walking and they see a ladder, it'll say, oh, this is Patrick's ladder, and then they can like it, and then I get bonuses from it and stuff. So there's like this cool like like this whole the world's gone to shit, but we're all still together kind of thing.
Just leaving little clues and hints and help for each other along the way.
And then another thing, and this was really interesting, Kojima's take on social media is, it's called give a like, because you can like other people's structures or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this other thing in the game. They're called mules, and what they are people who end up taking delivery people's packages and that, because they're addicted to taking the packages and people liking it. So it's like a mirror, or like an observation of people addicted to social media just for liking and getting that feeling of that whatever boost in your brain. They get addicted to that rush of being approved.
Instead of actually delivering it for the sake of helping.
This whole game is the prime example of video games as an art form. Like, if anyone, wants to be like, oh, video games aren't art, blah, 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 you're just like, we'll play like Shadow of the Classes, play Death Stranding, and then you're like, okay, this is art. It's a really good. I think so far it's a really good game. Like the gameplay again, you're like walking basically, and you have to worry about weight and stuff, and each trigger is your arm, so you have to like manage it. It's really cool.
Mhm.
It's definitely, I don't want to say a niche game, but it is like once you get past what it is and what it's supposed to be, or what it's intended to be, and like the message it's trying to convey, it's definitely worth playing. I haven't even beaten it yet. It's really it's really really cool.
You mentioned Shadow of the Colossus, and I realize it's in kind of that same genre or style that the Soulsborne is. And I think those are the types of games that I like the most now are ones that don't explain the story to you in dialogue,
Oh
but
yeah,
you instead discover as you explore
oh yeah,
this world that is foreign to both you and your player's character.
oh yeah. No, for sure. Like that's, I think that's realistic storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because in like I say that because in real life, if you want to know the history of the world, you're gonna have to figure it out yourself. And the same thing with Bloodborne and Dark Souls, and like not so much Death Stranding, but like Shadow of the Colossus. Is if you want to figure out what happened, you're gonna have to like
You're gonna have to go explore and
you're
search
gonna
and
you're
find
gonna have to
out.
do the work. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people like things spoon fed to them, and they don't really realize the art of it. I guess, or like the
Which
impact
is
of what.
okay too. I definitely like to
Yeah,
sit down sometimes and just play a game like that.
for sure. No, for sure. I just
There's a certain appreciation though for a game that has some, like you said, art direction put into that.
exactly. So we've talked a lot about video games. I would like to briefly discuss, and it's okay if we go over an hour since it's our first podcast after almost a year break.
I mean, we
Um,
haven't talked in a whole year, so we have so much to talk
that's true.
about.
I didn't even know you were alive still. I was surprised when I was like, I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to do the podcast again. You replied. I was like, what?
Oh, he's alive.
What the heck? So, usually, just as a preface for listeners, podcasts will not usually be this long unless something, pivotal happens. But
You say that they're all going to end up being like an hour and a half.
we're going to try harder.
We are going to try harder.
For some reason, we like to talk to each other. And
We do. So we're just going to have to like apparently cut down our topics for an
Yeah.
episode.
So, what we're saying is deal with it. Uh,
We have to deal with it.
yes. So COVID-19, if you don't know, especially if you're listening to this in the distant future,
That'll be the
is-
other thing, just real quick, is so many media content that is being created right now reference the current situation or COVID-19. And anyone who looks back on this or any of those from the future, that's just got to be a weird
thing to.
thing to experience.
Well, yeah, like okay, so think about that. So think about other huge events that have happened in humanity's lifetime
Mhm.
that have been recorded that are similar to this. So let's think of, and this is just the first one that popped to my mind, the bubonic plague. Okay, this happened.
Right.
You know,
A very
hundreds.
similar sort of thing,
Yes, and
obviously on a much more severe scale.
and it was in Europe, that side of the world, and it mostly almost wiped out most of humanity. And it was recorded, and we know about it, and we've learned about it, but nothing, like you said, has had the scale of how many people can make something and post it for someone to uncover, years later. Like there's a swath of content just on YouTube alone that's been documented of just like people in like, for example, like cooking videos. People have just mentioned it like, oh, this is what to do when you're stuck at home because of COVID, or
I watch a lot of, well, not a lot, but a couple of cooking related YouTube channels on occasion, and the big thing is like a pantry raid, or what you can make with some basics at home,
Yeah.
based on the current situation, and then
Or
It's literally shaping the form of media currently.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's so nuts. And then another thing is another, like when people watch things years in advance is so I watch Rhett and Link, and they have a lot of videos where the videos start and then like at the bottom it says this was recorded
in
in
advance.
advance. And
Sorry
then
if something sounds insensitive.
yeah, and so like people 5 years, like like, or some kid who's 5 at the time not knowing what's going on, and then like 7 or 10 years down the line they watch that episode and it says that and they're just like, what happened
What
10,
happened?
10 years ago, and then they go and ask and it was this whole thing that
Can I pause you
happened.
quick?
Oh yeah, go for it.
The Easter Bunny's here.
Ooh.
So it's FedEx.
Oh god. Still attached.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
I know, we're gonna have a weird cut in here.
Yeah. I'm sorry for listeners. Let's
The Easter Bunny had to make a quick delivery from 6 feet away to maintain social distance.
well, at least the Easter Bunny knows what's up.
That's right.
That's another thing that really bugs me about. Oh, we were talking about people looking back on this, like watching
Right.
content and that.
Mm-hmm.
So going off that, people during this time are
The crazies come out.
yeah, and some are extremely frustrating in the fact that a lot of people just think this is just a thing that'll blow over and be done with. Like this is not gonna go away for like a year. Like it's gonna be around for a while, and the fact that people now, especially during the lockdown, like we're supposed to stay at home for it's gonna be over a month, maybe longer now.
I know in the state of Michigan, she had originally tried to extend this out to June, the lockdown.
Oh, really?
And obviously people are going to just lose it if you immediately jump to that. So they've
It started to cut it down to
right now it's extended towards the end of April, and we'll probably see it then extended towards the end of May, and
that's smart.
we'll see from there.
Most people I don't think
Take it
realize
seriously.
like the implications that their actions have during this time. Like the amount of people I see that just are like we're in the
Going
store
about their daily lives as much as they can, and
and they're like they're
go to the store 4 or
coughing.
5 times a week.
Yep, they're together. They're not respecting distance. They're not wearing masks. They're not doing this. They're not doing that.
I'm somebody that lives in our area who they've had several friends over several times in the past week.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that to me, and it's just why?
Like there's still 4 extra cars in their driveway this morning.
Like, so not to get too personal, so both my sister's birthdays and my girlfriend's birthday are within the same week.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, Joshua is currently in Big Rapids, where I am from, and I am in Ann Arbor, which is 3 hours south, which is right next to the biggest outbreak county city in Michigan at the moment. And
Right now, I was actually looking at that, and like Michigan is one of the top for cases, and it's right all in that area. But go on.
And I had to tell both my sisters that I could not go to their birthdays or come up because of quarantine.
Current situation. Yes.
Yeah. And you don't realize how much that sucks until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I, we had to do video calls and that, which is just not the same.
No, it's not.
And like, for example, like this is Grace's senior year of high school, and it's done. It just
Right.
it was
The
it
last
was
half of it is all just spent at home.
it was just done overnight, and that sucks. Like, granted, I didn't care for my senior year of high school, but like,
There are a lot of people who find, the classic saying of those were the best years of my life. I don't quite
yeah,
understand that either,
I,
but
I don't
for
either.
some
And I
people,
know, Grace won't say that, but it's really important to her, the friend community she's made there. It's
hmm
extremely important, and it just like completely,
it's just all gone.
yeah, and it's awful. And she has her issues of her own, and with that on top of it, like not being able to be there for her, and she like begging me to come home so
hmm
she can see me and to be a part of her birthday, and having to say no is incredibly hard. And then you got people who are like, hey, let's still party. Let's stay up and work on our trucks until 5 in the morning. Or let's, like, the apartment complex, not apartment complex, but the apartment, like, couple floors below me. I don't know how many times I've seen different people come in and out of that apartment. Like, because I can oversee the parking lot from where my desk is at.
Right.
And I'm just seeing people constantly in and out, in and out, in and out. And they're like older people or like kids or, and it's just like, come on. Come on. Or like, they're like, I don't have it. And I'm like, I don't care if you don't have it. You got it.
Well, and a lot of testing has come to find out that most people who do have it are asymptomatic and don't show any symptoms.
Oh,
And even if you do or don't have symptoms, you still have the potential to carry it, either not necessarily even directly, but indirectly to somebody else you come in contact, which then gets carried to somebody who's in a high risk group for it, somebody
yep.
who's immune compromised or much older, and has a real chance of health impact if they do contract it.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's that. And then there's people don't understand cross contamination.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
And
at
that
all.
this can live on hard surfaces for several days. It's been found.
And they don't, like, we've gotten to the point where and Sarah and I got into like a fight over it yesterday. She wanted to walk and go get the mail, and I'm like, okay, if you walk and go get the mail, you're going to wear a mask. You're going to wear, protective gear basically. But she's like, no, I just want to go walk and get the mail. And I'm like, I don't care, like, and the fact that it's just like, I don't know, just how it like overtakes
Every aspect
of your
of
life
your
like
life.
that. Like we'll like if we go outside, which we never do now, except on our patio, which is 3 stories above the ground,
And it's just like a little concrete square.
is we just if we go out like to the store, we come home, we wipe everything down, we throw our clothes in the washer, and then we shower. And just having to, it's just so weird. It's just so weird. And then it's like frustrating that some people don't do that. And it's like, wow, that's what's wrong with all this, is no one.
Not everyone will take it seriously, and there's a lack of maybe infrastructure to come down on the people who are breaking stay-at-home orders. I
Yep.
know they've made it a civil infraction that is enforceable. However, you can't obviously catch every situation of that, and you're
Right.
mostly relying on people to have
Well,
a brain and to you know
I
follow those orders on their own.
I don't know if I told you this, because going off of that, the amount of cops now that patrol this complex
Mm-hmm.
is insane. Like while we were recording, I've seen 2 drive by, like just
Wow.
yeah, just circling it. It's so weird. It's so weird, and I forgot what I was going to say after that. So you say something about this.
Well, it's a little interesting to see the different dynamic. Obviously, we live in very different environments. You're in a pretty heavy populous
Uh huh.
city, where we live right now in a much less densely populated area, and more differently, we live outside of town, and we do have the option. We have a little bit of land, so we can just kind of go outside as needed and not have to worry about that, since there's nobody in coming in or out of the property. But yeah, it's just we haven't left the house except to go shopping once or twice since it's been almost a month now.
Yeah, it's the same with us. I think we've left the house twice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the week before Animal Crossing came out, which was like early March.
Right, again, almost a month ago.
We've just been in here. And I'm going to admit it, when this first happened, I was very naive and I thought, oh, this is going to be great because now I can catch up on all the projects that I have just lined up in my life.
Well, and based on the way that it was being reported early on, is like, oh, we might have a stay at home for a couple weeks.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And then everything will go back to normal. I can finally like pick up some stuff that I've been putting off. I can maybe play like a game or two I've been putting off. I can keep in contact. I can do more things. And then it got worse. And I was like, oh, maybe I should, pay attention to what's going on. And that's when I started listening to, news-related podcasts, to reading the news more, and realized that this is it is a serious thing. It's very serious. And the fact that people aren't taking it seriously is frustrating, but understandable because, again, I was like that when this first started.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling you, I'm like, I got like the next 3 weeks off and it's paid. And
well, at that point, it wasn't, like you said, that big of a deal, or it wasn't being portrayed as that big of a deal by most outlets.
And then probably till like a week after is when it like picked up, because that's when the order was issued. That's when like you weren't allowed to go to work.
Right. That's when I was laid off, and then Ashley's been working from home ever since.
Yep. And it's just so weird. And that kind of leads to, I guess, working from home. Obviously, you haven't been working from home.
No.
No offense. I didn't mean that as a jab or anything.
No, not at all.
I am working from home, and Sarah's working from home, and I can tell you all that I think I am busier now than I was prior to this. Sarah and I both put in probably 30 to 35 hours a week working on stuff, and granted, that's not, like a 40-hour work week, but that's also on top of doing all these side projects that Sarah and I have been doing that we've been wanting to do. So then that turns into a 50-hour work week, or,
right.
50 plus. And it's insane. And it's really difficult. But also the silver lining of it for me working from home is I've always wanted to be, and you know this, I've always wanted to be like a content creator. And that's just always what I wanted to do, because one, I can't not do anything, or else I just become very sad. And
right, to have that outlet to make something, whether it's media or what have you.
And so I've been posting daily videos, and the way I make videos is I don't just record with my phone and upload it. I record it. I do pre-production on it, which means I write out what I'm doing or plan out what I'm doing. Then I record it. Then I edit it. Then I export it, and then I upload it. And it is
assuming nothing went wrong in the export process.
Yes, and it is a lot of time to do. Like a 5-minute video is probably like 2 hours worth of work. And I do one of those every day. And that's just for my job. That's just for like my students, because I am a teacher during this time. So I have to connect with my students that way. And then I'm doing Zoom calls with my students. So I'm teaching over Zoom, which is the weirdest thing, because one, you can't hold the child's attention. You have to rely on their parent to be there, but their parents are also trying to work at the same time that you're doing this. So it's incredibly difficult for them. And then you have your fellow teachers who are not knowledgeable in technology
using these products.
or teaching this way. So I've made countless tutorials. I've written up countless things for them, and I just feel like I'm just busier than I was before. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because again, this is what I've wanted to do, and
Exactly.
I'm getting paid to do it. So it's nice.
And speaking from somebody who's not currently working, having that daily structure is very helpful to keeping your sanity.
So that brings it to, because we've talked about it briefly, but again, we usually play games while we're talking,
That's right.
so we don't get into the dirty bit of it,
The nitty gritty.
the nitty gritty. That's what it is. I couldn't think of it. So how have you been handling it, Joshua?
Not terribly bad. A lot of days though, my alarm will go off at like 8 or 9, which is late. And I'll wake up and I'll be like, I don't actually have to get up. I don't have to do anything.
And is it weird?
It makes it, it's not weird. It's just, it makes it a struggle to get out of bed. And it's like, well, why?
Right. Well, that's the,
Unless I sit there and, set goals for myself from the day beforehand and be like, all right, I want to get this done or that done.
right.
And being your own self-motivation there is sometimes a little bit difficult.
Oh, it is incredibly difficult, and that's why I'm glad I have a structure set in place, and that's what made me. This is gonna sound awful to some, but this whole thing has made me realize that everything is not preordained. It's not. There's nothing at the end of this. And when I'm saying end of this, I mean like, okay, this is gonna get really heavy, and I don't mean to. At the end of your life, there's nothing required. There's
Of
no
you.
there's no bar set. Nothing has a true meaning except like materialistic. Like your own ego decides for you what your life should entail and should equal. Your ego tells you what should become of you, what you should be doing, how it should be done, what should happen. Like your ego says you won't live a full life or you won't live a happy life until X happens.
And that's not a good mindset to carry.
And it is not. And I've had that mindset forever until this happened. And it has made me realize that no matter what I do, we're all going to just we're just all going to, pass and be at equal footing. And
At some point. And so that's, I guess, a good takeaway from it is to just kind of do what you want to do in the moment, within reason, obviously.
yeah,
And try to enjoy that as much as you can.
And then going off that to make it happier is at that point, if you have had this realization like I have, you realize that other people have not had this realization and they are suffering because they haven't or haven't been enlightened in some sense. So you decide to help them, and I strongly suggest helping others, especially during this time, doing whatever you can, especially within, social distancing guidelines. Physically, you don't have to be there, but helping people, especially after this time is done, to not spend your time on material things and actually give a shit, as some would say. But no, like, to go on that, so, when you were a kid and you're playing video games and you're just like, this is like, I am extremely happy doing this right now, and then your parent comes in and says, knock it off, this is bad for you, blah 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 blah. And
Go play
again,
outside.
yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. But it's just like, okay, if I'm happy and feel good playing video games all day, then don't tell me what to do. Like, don't, if that makes you happy doing that, then just do it.
To a certain extent, obviously.
Well, yeah,
while
like,
still, maintaining a livelihood and yourself.
yeah.
But yeah, if that's what you enjoy to do in your free time, do it.
Like, you don't have to write the next greatest novel. You don't have to make the next,
Big app.
yeah, you don't have to win
Don't
the
accomplish
Nobel
anything.
Peace Prize. You don't have to just just do your best to be happy. Like God, like that's my whole takeaway from this. But going off, you had some everyday tasks as one of the key points.
Oh
talk
yeah, just
about.
like the way that there are so many things that you go out and about to do that just you suddenly realize you're not able to do. For instance, I get my hair cut like every 4 to 6 weeks. I and, like it needs to be cut right now. Can't do that.
Uh-huh. And would you, how long do you think it would take for you to get your hair cut after this is all over? Like being able to actually have someone else touch you.
I guess it depends on the situations around how this ends. It as long as it seems like it ends in a way where most people have built up an immunity at that point, or it's been several weeks or whatever since confirmed cases been in the area. That doesn't concern me quite as much.
Because I was thinking about that, and I think it's just, if I was still in Big Rapids, I wouldn't feel as bad going out to get my hair cut, just because it would
Because
be,
there's less of a footprint, less of an impact on
and
the number of people.
I would know who was cutting my hair,
Mhm.
and that would be Marcy, and I know for a fact Marcy likes to be clean, and
Right.
she would take that
Precaution.
seriously. But I don't know anyone in Ann Arbor to cut my hair, so I don't want to do that. So I just decided I'm just gonna grow it out and see what happens.
And at this point, I'm flip flop between that, or do I go buy a set of clippers and try to like trim it up a little bit?
Do it yourself. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Have you shaved yet?
I have not shaved yet.
Nice. I say keep it
it's-
going.
Well, I'll show you at some point, but there are a couple of very obvious, not quite bald spots, but the hair that is there is very fine and sparse.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. I can grow like the mustache goatee section and like the sideburn chops pretty well. There's just that area in between is lacking.
I just trimmed mine yesterday because I dyed my hair, and having a reddish brown beard, an Irish reddish brown beard, did not match what was going on. And
What did you dye it to?
okay, so a little story real quick.
Okay.
I think we'll end with this little story, and
That's
then
good.
we will pick up more COVID talk next episode.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm sure it'll still be relevant.
It will be. And so when we went and did our most recent shopping trip, which was 2 weeks ago now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing for people real quick is don't hoard. Like, for the love of Christ, like, you don't need 5 things of toilet paper. You don't even need, like, how many squares do you use, Joshua, when you wipe your ass?
It probably ends up being like 6 to 8 in total, just because I'm a little paranoid of getting it all clean.
Same. I'm glad someone else is like that. But
But we'll go through like a small package of toilet paper like once a month, maybe.
Yeah, you don't need like 2 things of them. And I mean, I wish I had a bidet for this reason.
You're
but,
telling me.
like, but or like for paper towel, you have hand towels. Everyone has a ton of hand towels. I have a
Just
ton.
reuse those.
Just reuse those and wash them. Like, come on. Or like face masks and gloves. I understand personally wanting them because one, I am a germaphobe, so I understand it. But I also realize that there are people who are actually within radius of people with this disease daily, like nurses and doctors and that, who need them more than we do. So don't buy them. Like, there are plenty of sites out there, plenty of tutorials that list the proper materials to use to make decent face masks. And I say that because Sarah did it. She made us face masks using materials that are close to what we can come up with to make actual face masks. And they're reusable. We can wash them, you know. So just be considerate. But anyway, we were at the store. And for a while, I've been wanting to dye my hair because I've had the realization that I don't think I will be going bald because the reason I mention this is it's always been a fear of mine.
Right.
But my dad went bald
Before your age.
way before my age, 5 years, in fact, before my age. My cousin, who has literally the exact same genes as me, and I say this because my mom married my mom married my dad's. No, hold on. My mom's brother married my
your
dad's sister.
sister.
So we have the same genes.
Just about, yeah.
yeah.
As close as you can get.
Yeah, and he's already going bald. The only thing I have is a very high hairline.
Yes, but you've always had that.
And I've always correct. I've always had that. And then I was the most who I look like in my family is my Uncle Brian and my Grandpa Pat, and they have had the same issues for their lives. So I've gotten to the point that I'll just have this kind of hair, and I'm fine with that. I've come to terms. I'm like, at least I'll have hair. So I've decided to grow it out. And a couple weeks ago, I realized I wanted to dye it because I haven't dyed my hair in years. And so we were walking through the hair dye, and I found this. It was this like dusty blue kind of color, and it was
like a grayish blue.
Yeah, and it was a really, really cool color. And we went to go put the dye on, and I realized that, one, I have a lot more hair than I thought I did, and two, my hair is a lot darker than I thought it was.
Yeah, your hair's gotten a fair bit darker almost to the point where you probably should bleach it before dyeing it.
So we went and used the hair dye, and it just made it a touch lighter, and it did nothing. Like, it did nothing. Like, my hair is like probably a couple shades away from like very, very dark brown black area. And after this happened, Sarah's talking about reasons why it might happen, and then we were looking at the package, and it says, if your hair is like this or this, you should probably bleach it before. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks. That means I gotta have to wait to get hair dye again to bleach it, blah blah blah. So Sarah ended up going to Kroger a couple days ago, and she bought me bleach dye or super light blonde hair or whatever. So my hair now looks like Katie's hair. For those who don't know my sister, I look like my sister, and I have always looked alike. I just have always had a beard
to offset that.
So yeah, so now I look exactly like Katie with this really bright
beard.
Yeah, blonde hair. And then I stepped out of the shower after I dyed my hair, and I was like, "Oh Christ, I gotta trim this if I want to look normal." And so I trimmed up my beard, and I still have like a mustache and like the soul patch combo, and I think I look pretty good. And Sarah didn't mind it either, especially with my new set of glasses I have. I look I think I pull it off.
Have I seen these glasses?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
They're like the metal one with the plastic tips that are kind of irritating at sometimes.
What color are the frames?
They're this. Oh, what style is this? It's like that orange patchy, like it's black with like orange.
Okay, I like that orangish brown.
Yeah, I'll send a picture of them to you
I think I might have.
after we're done with this. But no, I think I don't mind it actually. I'm like, oh wow, I don't mind if I have to not dye my hair again. But
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who don't know, if your hair is too dark, like Joshua said earlier, you have to bleach it first, and then you wait 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, depending
Just so
on.
you don't kill your hair.
Yep, and so the color, stays or whatever, so you can dye your hair the actual color you want to dye it, which I feel like I knew in the background of my mind, but really didn't know until it actually.
Right. Wasn't at the forefront until you're like, oh yeah, I guess that is a problem.
Oh, I guess that does make sense, but no, it was I really like dyeing my hair and doing like cool changes to your style like that. I highly advise you doing it now because this is the time if you want to try something crazy with yourself.
This is the time to do it.
You got time. You got plenty of time.
So here's a closing thought.
Okay.
You've obviously been watching a lot of Rhett and Link lately.
Yes.
I've obviously watched a lot of their stuff in the past, and at the end of their podcast, they make a recommendation.
Oh, that is a good idea. That is a very, very good idea.
So not an attempt to rip them off, but in a respectful manner, because I think I can say we both enjoy the stuff that they do.
They are, when you first showed them to me, I was like, these guys are really cool. I like them, but I don't know if I can get into their stuff. But with Sarah, because you know how Ashley will just throw stuff on in the background, and you like, for example, like when we lived together, I saw all of 30 Rock, and I Friends, because I don't remember a lot of 30 Rock. Friends, I have seen Friends probably 2 or 3 times passively just from living with Ashley and Joshua.
Exactly.
And she and Sarah does that with like Smosh, with Rhett and Link and that. And one day I actually sat down and watched Rhett and Link, and I was like, oh wow, these guys are super cool. Small tangent. Anyway, I'm sorry. But yeah,
Anyway.
they're awesome. Rex.
So recommendation for the week: do something fun with your hair.
Oh yeah, hey, there we go. Yeah, try something. Shave it if you want. It's really
Grow a beard, dye it.
yeah, it's really and you might think it's funny, whoever is listening, but I would highly recommend trying something new to express yourself in the sense of altering or changing something on your body, more like,
At least as a part of your personal style.
yeah,
Could
there
even
we
be
go.
like a clothes.
Yep, I would say definitely change up your style. Try something weird.
Because
see if you like
nobody's there to look at it and make you feel self-conscious about it.
And if your family is, you can just tell them to shut up. So, whatever works. I can't stop talking, but let's end it. Thank you all for listening to this incredibly long podcast. I don't know if this will definitely be weekly for sure, but we might, if you're up for it, Joshua, we can definitely do more per week just because
We can definitely sprinkle in some more. Yeah,
quarantine updates.
that's right.
So with that, everyone, thank you for watching and, listening to the side table. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And please stay inside. Please stay inside.
Please.
please. And with that, have a good one.